I am Gabriella, 38, and this is my story of regret. When I remarried, I thought I was creating a perfect blended family for my daughter Emma. Instead, I slowly sacrificed her happiness to please my new husband and stepdaughter. The breaking point came at Emma's birthday party when I asked her to give up her presents to her stepsister. What happened next shattered our relationship and changed everything. I never imagined I could hurt my own child so deeply, and now I'm left picking up the pieces of my greatest mistake. Before I continue, let me know where you're watching from and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever had to navigate the complicated waters of blended families. My story begins 3 years after my divorce from David, Emma's father. We had been married for 10 years, but gradually grew apart until we both agreed separation was best. The divorce was amicable enough, but I still struggled as a single mum trying to balance work parenting and my own emotional healing. Emma was 11 when David and I split up. She was always a sweet, studious child, with a responsible nature beyond her years. The divorce hit her hard at first. She would ask questions I couldn't answer about why families break apart, and there were nights I heard her crying quietly in her bedroom. But children are resilient, and over time she adjusted. We developed a special closeness in those years, just the two of us against the world. She would curl up beside me on weekend mornings, with her sketchbook sharing her latest artwork, while I sipped my coffee. Those simple moments were precious. Art was Emma's passion. She could spend hours with her coloured pencils and sketchbooks, creating beautiful detailed drawings that showed real talent. She was also an avid reader, often losing herself in books about art history or fantasy worlds. Her introverted nature meant she had just a few close friends, but those friendships were deep and meaningful. She needed her personal space and quiet time to recharge, something I always respected. Then I met James at a work conference when Emma was 13. He was charming, successful, and made me feel desired again. James was 40, a widower, with a 14-year-old daughter named Sophia. His wife had died 3 years earlier from cancer, leaving him to raise their daughter alone. He owned a successful marketing firm and lived in a beautiful home across town. Our whirlwind romance moved quickly. Within 6 months we were married, and Emma and I moved into his larger home. I was so caught up in the excitement of new love that I failed to notice the warning signs about how this would affect Emma. James was a completely different parent than I was. Where I set boundaries and encouraged independence, James indulged Sophia's every whim. She was used to getting whatever she wanted whenever she wanted it. James explained this as his way of compensating for her mother's absence, but the result was a 14-year-old who had never learned to share or compromise. Sophia was Emma's opposite in every way. Where Emma was quiet and thoughtful, Sophia was loud and impulsive. Emma had a few close friends, while Sophia had a large social circle she maintained through constant drama and gossip. Emma saved her allowance for art supplies, while Sophia expected her father to buy her the latest clothing and electronics without question. From the beginning, James pressured me in subtle ways to make everything equal between the girls. It sounded reasonable in theory, but in practice, it always seemed to mean Emma giving up something for Sophia, never the other way around. The first major issue was the bedroom situation. James's house had 3 bedrooms, but he insisted his home office needed to remain intact for his business. That meant Emma and Sophia would have to share a room. I knew Emma treasured her privacy, but James convinced me this would help the girls bond. I'll never forget the look on Emma's face when I told her. She didn't argue or throw a tantrum. She just nodded and said, "If that's what you need me to do, Mum." Her quiet acceptance broke my heart, but I pushed that feeling aside, telling myself kids adapt. The adjustment period was difficult from the start. Sophia had no concept of personal boundaries. She would borrow Emma's clothes without asking use her art supplies, and invite friends over without consideration for Emma's need for quiet study time. When Emma complained to me, I minimized her concerns, telling her, "This is just an adjustment period, honey. Give it time." As the weeks passed, I found myself increasingly deferring to James on parenting decisions. He had strong opinions about how our blended family should function, and I was so desperate to make my new marriage work that I began to doubt my own parenting instincts. I didn't notice how with each compromise I was creating a growing divide between my daughter and myself. Looking back, I can see now that I was blind to Emma's struggles because I was so focused on my new relationship. I mistook her quiet compliance for acceptance, not realizing that inside her heart was breaking as she watched me transform from her advocate into someone who consistently put her last. The first major incident that should have opened my eyes happened about 2 months after we moved in. Emma had been saving her allowance for 3 months to buy a professional set of coloured pencils. These weren't ordinary school supplies, but artist-grade materials that cost nearly $200. She researched brands, read reviews, and carefully counted her money until she finally had enough. The joy on her face when we returned from the art store with her treasure was beautiful to see. 3 days later, I came home to find Emma in tears. Sophia had taken the pencils to school without permission to impress her friends. Several were broken and some were missing altogether. When I confronted James about it, his response floored me. "Girls share things, Gabriella. Emma needs to learn to be more generous. They're just pencils, we can buy more." But they weren't just pencils to Emma. They represented months of patience and saving a commitment to her passion. More importantly, they were hers, something she had earned through her own effort. Instead of standing up for Emma, I weakly suggested that perhaps Sophia could ask next time. Emma watched this exchange with disbelief in her eyes, and something shifted in our relationship that day. She stopped coming to me with her problems. She began keeping her remaining art supplies in a locked box under her bed. A month later, Emma spent 2 weeks working on a science project that counted for 30% of her grade. She created a detailed model of an ecosystem complete with tiny handcrafted elements. The night before it was due, Sophia had friends over while James and I were out for dinner. Despite Emma's protests, the girls moved her project to make space for their pizza and sodas. When we returned home, the model was damaged beyond repair, soaked with spilled drinks, and broken in several places. Emma was devastated. She stayed up all night trying to salvage what she could, but her grade suffered significantly. When she tried to explain what happened to her teacher, she was told she should have been more careful with her work. When Emma recounted this to me through tears, I repeated James's perspective that it was just an accident, and that Emma needed to be more understanding of Sophia wanting to spend time with her friends. I suggested that next time she should keep her projects at school or at her father's house during his visitation weekends. I can still see the look on Emma's face the moment she realized I wasn't going to protect her or her belongings. She nodded silently and walked away. Her grades began to slip after that, her previous A's turning into B's and C's. When I asked her about it, she simply said she was adjusting to the new school, but I knew there was more to it. One evening, Emma asked to talk to me privately. We sat on the back porch swing, something we used to do regularly before the marriage, but had rarely done since. "Mom, I know you want this new family to work," she began carefully. "And I'm trying, I really am, but I need some boundaries. I need some things that are just mine that I don't have to share. Is there any way I could have even a corner of the house that's just my space?" I dismissed her concerns, telling her this was still an adjustment period, and that blending families takes time. I assured her that eventually she and Sophia would become friends, maybe even like sisters. Emma looked at me with those solemn eyes that suddenly seemed much older than 14 and simply said, "Okay, Mom." After that conversation, Emma retreated emotionally from the family. She spent more time at school, joining clubs that kept her out of the house until dinner. On weekends, she asked to visit her father more frequently. When she was home, she was polite, but distant, speaking only when spoken to at family meals. I noticed the change, but I misinterpreted it. James suggested that Emma was being difficult and resistant to the family bond. He compared her unfavorably to Sophia, who superficially seemed more engaged with family activities, though in reality she simply dominated them. James was subtly manipulative in ways I couldn't see then. He would make comments about how much easier Sophia was to parent, how she goes with the flow, unlike Emma. He pressured me to maintain family peace at all costs, which increasingly meant at Emma's expense. His approval became important to me, and I found myself adopting his perspectives on parenting to avoid conflict in our marriage. My insecurity about making the marriage work clouded my judgment. I began to see Emma through James's eyes, labeling her quiet nature as sullen, and her need for personal space as unsociable. I failed to see that I was losing my daughter one compromise at a time. As Emma's 15th birthday approached, I saw an opportunity to repair some of the damage. In my family, birthdays were always special celebrations. We had traditions like breakfast in bed and the birthday person choosing all the meals and activities for the day. Emma had been looking forward to her first birthday as a teenager, planning a small art-themed party with her few close friends. "Could I have an art workshop party, Mom?" she asked one evening, showing me a flyer from the local art studio that offered birthday packages. They provide all the supplies and teach everyone to paint the same scene. It's only for 8 people, so I could invite my closest friends. I was excited to see her enthusiasm after months of withdrawal. The party would be affordable, and I loved that she wanted to share her passion with her friends. Her birthday fell on a Saturday in May, perfect timing for a spring celebration. Then 3 weeks before Emma's birthday, James approached me while I was preparing dinner. "Sophia was talking to me about Emma's upcoming birthday," he began. "She's feeling really left out of the celebration. You know, she hasn't made many friends at her new school yet. I was thinking, why not make it a joint party for both girls? Sophia's birthday isn't until July, but we could celebrate early. It would be a great bonding opportunity." The suggestion made me uncomfortable immediately. I knew how important this birthday was to Emma and how different the girls' interests were. But James continued before I could object. "I know what you're thinking, but this is what families do. They share celebrations. Besides, it would be more economical to have one bigger party rather than two separate ones. I'd be happy to contribute more to the budget if we made it a joint celebration." I should have stood firm. I should have protected Emma's special day. Instead, I agreed without even consulting her, telling myself this would be good for family cohesion. The next day, I sat Emma down to tell her about the change of plans. I tried to sound enthusiastic, emphasizing the positives, like a bigger budget and a chance to include more people. "So we thought it would be nice to make your birthday a celebration for both you and Sophia. Isn't that fun? We can have a bigger party and it would be a great way for everyone to come together." Emma was quiet for a long moment, her eyes downcast. When she looked up, I could see she was fighting back tears, but her voice was steady. "Does this mean we won't be doing the art studio party?" "Well, we need to find something that both you and Sophia would enjoy," I explained. "Sophia isn't really interested in art, so we should find a compromise." Emma nodded slowly, that same quiet acceptance that should have been a red flag. "What did you have in mind instead?" "We haven't decided yet. Why don't you and Sophia talk about it together and find something you both like?" Emma agreed, but there was a resignation in her voice that I chose to ignore. I was so focused on pleasing James and creating an illusion of family harmony that I didn't see the heartbreak written all over my daughter's face. The next few days revealed how completely Emma's birthday had been hijacked. When the girls sat down to discuss party plans, Sophia immediately took over. "I was thinking we could do a TikTok theme," Sophia announced. "We could set up different stations for making videos, have a ring light photo booth, and everyone could dress up. I could invite some of the popular girls from school, and it would help both of us make more friends." Emma, who didn't even have a social media account and preferred quiet activities to performative ones, tried to suggest a compromise. "Could we maybe have different activity stations? Maybe one for art and one for videos?" Sophia dismissed this immediately. "That would be so lame. Nobody wants to sit around drawing at a party. We need something cool that everyone will enjoy." When Emma looked to me for support, I said, "Let's try to find something you both can enjoy, Emma. Sophia's ideas sound fun and would include more people." The hurt in Emma's eyes was unmistakable, but she simply nodded and stopped participating in the planning. Over the next 2 weeks, the party transformed completely. Sophia invited 15 of her friends compared to Emma's original 8. The theme changed to social media stars, with decorations, activities, and even the cake designed around popular apps and influencers that Emma had no interest in. The budget expanded to accommodate Sophia's vision, with James happily contributing extra for special decorations and party favors. Emma withdrew from the planning, entirely responding with quiet, "Whatever you think is best," when asked for input. The day before the party, Emma made one last attempt to salvage something of her birthday. She found me alone in the kitchen preparing food for the next day. "Mum," she began hesitantly, "I know the party is going to be Sophia's thing, and that's okay. But could we maybe do something small, just you and me in the morning before everyone arrives? Like we used to do breakfast in bed for birthdays." I was busy and stressed about party preparations. Without looking up from the vegetable tray I was arranging, I replied, "Emma, I'll have so much to do tomorrow morning to get ready for the party. I won't have time for separate celebrations. Sometimes we have to sacrifice our own wants for the family. That's part of growing up." Emma was silent for so long that I finally looked up. The pain in her eyes was unmistakable, but there was something else there too, a resignation that broke my heart. "I understand, Mum," she said softly. "You're right. It's all about family now." She turned and walked away, her shoulders slumped in defeat. I felt a pang of unease, a whisper that I was making a terrible mistake. But I pushed it aside, telling myself that Emma would enjoy the party once it was underway, that this was just normal teenage drama. I couldn't have been more wrong. The morning of Emma's birthday dawned bright and clear. I rose early to begin party preparations, expecting Emma to sleep in, as teenagers often do. To my surprise, I found her already awake, silently helping set up decorations in the living room. The theme, social media stars, was emblazoned on banners and balloons in bright pink and blue colours Sophia had chosen. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," I said, giving Emma a quick hug. She returned it stiffly, murmuring a quiet "thank you," before returning to her task. I noticed she was wearing jeans and a simple t-shirt rather than the special outfit she had bought weeks earlier for her art party. Sophia bounced downstairs an hour later, immediately squealing with delight at the decorations. "This looks amazing. It's going to be the best party ever." She threw her arms around James, who had just entered carrying more supplies. "Thank you, Daddy." "Anything for my princess," James replied, kissing the top of her head. "And for the birthday girl too, of course," he added almost as an afterthought, nodding toward Emma. James's family arrived early, bearing gifts wrapped in bright paper. I noticed immediately that there seemed to be more packages for Sophia than for Emma, despite it being Emma's actual birthday. James's mother, Barbara, made a beeline for Sophia, embracing her warmly. "There's my favourite granddaughter," she gushed, though she had only known Sophia for less than a year. She handed her a large, expensively wrapped gift. "A little something special for my social butterfly." She then turned to Emma with a much smaller package. "Happy birthday, dear. I wasn't sure what you'd like, so I got you a gift card." I saw the hurt flash across Emma's face before she composed herself and thanked Barbara politely. I should have said something. Should have reminded everyone that this was primarily Emma's birthday celebration, but I remained silent, not wanting to create tension. The party began at noon, with guests filtering in gradually. Emma's few invited friends looked uncomfortable amidst the chaos of Sophia's larger, louder social circle. The activities were all centered around making social media content, with stations set up for recording short videos and taking photos with props. Emma stood awkwardly to the side, while Sophia commanded the attention of the room, directing everyone in elaborate group poses and videos. I was busy serving food and managing the flow of the party, but I couldn't help noticing how isolated Emma appeared at her own birthday celebration. She spoke quietly with her few friends, but as the afternoon progressed, they gravitated toward the more exciting activities Sophia was leading, leaving Emma alone more often than not. The cake was brought out next, a two-tiered creation decorated with edible social media icons and "Happy Birthday, Sophia and Emma," written in frosting Sophia's name first, despite it being Emma's actual birthday. When everyone sang, Sophia stepped forward to blow out the candles alongside Emma. At the last moment, she blew with such force that she extinguished all the candles before Emma had a chance, followed by her triumphant laugh. "Make a wish, birthday girls," James called out, seemingly oblivious to what had just happened. Emma forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Then came the moment that would change everything, the present opening. Everyone gathered in the living room with Emma and Sophia seated side by side on the couch. James announced that they would take turns opening gifts, beginning with Emma, since it was her actual birthday. Emma's few presents from her friends were thoughtful and personal. Her best friend Sarah gave her a beautiful sketchbook with handmade paper. Her friend Aiden's family gave her a set of professional watercolours. My gift to her was a carrying case for her art supplies that she had been wanting for months. But the highlight was a package from her father, who couldn't attend due to work obligations. Inside was an expensive set of artist-grade markers in 64 colours, something Emma had coveted but never expected to receive. Her face lit up genuinely for the first time that day as she carefully removed them from the packaging, running her fingers over the colourful barrels with reverence. "These are amazing," she whispered, holding them close. "I need to call Dad and thank him." I noticed Sophia watching with narrowed eyes as Emma arranged the markers back in their case. When it was Sophia's turn to open her presents, she seemed increasingly agitated, despite receiving more numerous and often more expensive gifts. James had bought her the latest smartphone, his parents gave her expensive jewellery, and various friends brought trendy clothes and accessories. Yet Sophia's gaze kept returning to Emma's markers. After the last present was opened, she turned to her father with a pout. "Daddy, I want some of those fancy markers too. They look so cool, and I've been wanting to try art." James glanced at Emma's markers, and then at me, raising his eyebrows in silent communication. My stomach dropped as I realised what he was suggesting. Before I could process my response, he spoke up. "Emma Sophia is showing interest in art. Wouldn't it be nice to share your new markers with her? After all, she's sharing her birthday celebration with you." Emma clutched the marker case tighter, her knuckles turning white. "These are professional markers. They need special care and technique. I've been wanting them for years." James's expression hardened slightly. "We're a family now, Emma. Families share." "Tam." I saw Emma looking at me silently, pleading for support. In that crucial moment, I failed her completely. "Emma," I said, my voice falsely bright. "Why don't you let Sophia use some of your new markers? You have so many colours, and it would be nice to share your hobby with her. It's only fair since we're celebrating both of you today." The room fell silent. Emma looked from me to the markers in her hands, then back to me with disbelief in her eyes. When she spoke, her voice was quiet but clear. "No, I'm done sharing my room, my birthday, and my life. These are mine from my dad. They're not part of this family sharing arrangement." I felt my face flush with embarrassment and anger. "Emma, that's a very selfish attitude. Sophia has been kind enough to share her home with us, and her father has provided so much for you. The least you could do is share some markers." "Kind enough to share her home," Emma repeated incredulously. "I never wanted to move here. I never wanted to share a room. I never wanted a joint birthday party. None of this was my choice." James stepped in, his tone condescending. "Young lady, after all we've done for you, this is very disappointing behaviour. Your mother and I have tried to make this transition easy for everyone." Emma stood up suddenly, still clutching her markers. "Easy for everyone, or easy for you and Sophia? I've given up everything since we moved here. My privacy, my space, my time with Mum, and now my birthday. What has Sophia ever had to give up?" The guests shifted uncomfortably. Sophia began to cry loud, dramatic sobs that immediately drew James to her side. "Now see what you've done," he said to Emma. "You've ruined the party." Tears filled Emma's eyes, but she didn't let them fall. "You ruined my birthday long before today," she said, looking directly at me. Then she turned and walked out of the room and up the stairs, leaving a stunned silence behind her. I was mortified. In front of all our guests, my daughter had created a scene. I quickly tried to salvage the situation, suggesting everyone move to the backyard for games while I dealt with Emma. As the guests filed out, I stormed upstairs, anger and embarrassment fueling my steps. I found Emma sitting on her bed, the marker set open beside her as she examined each colour. She didn't look up when I entered. "What was that?" I demanded. "How could you embarrass me like that in front of everyone, after all the work I put into this party, after everything we've done to make you feel included?" Emma finally looked up, and the raw pain in her eyes should have stopped me cold. "Included, Mom? Nothing about this day has included me. This wasn't my party, these aren't my friends, even the cake had Sophia's name first." "That's not true." I insisted, though I knew she was right. "We've tried so hard to make this family work, and you're being completely uncooperative." "Do you even hear yourself?" Emma asked quietly. "Everything is about your new family now. What about our family, Mum? What about just you and me?" "That's selfish, Emma. We're all a family now, and that means sometimes making sacrifices." "I'm the only one making sacrifices," she replied. "What has Sophia ever sacrificed? What have you sacrificed?" Her words stung because they contained truth I wasn't ready to face. Instead of reflecting, I doubled down. "I expect you to come downstairs right now, apologise to everyone, and share those markers with Sophia." Emma closed the marker case and held it protectively. "No, Dad bought these for me, not for Sophia. They're the one thing that's just mine, and I'm not giving them up." Fury rose within me, fueled by embarrassment and the fear that I was losing control of the situation. "Fine. If that's your attitude, you're grounded for 2 weeks. No phone, no computer except for schoolwork, and no going out with friends." I expected her to argue or plead. Instead, she simply nodded a resigned acceptance that somehow made me even angrier. "And until you learn to be part of this family, you don't deserve special birthday presents." I continued reaching for the marker set. "I'll be keeping these." Emma's eyes widened as she realised what I was doing. She tried to hold on to the case, but I pulled it from her grasp. "Mum, please no. Dad got these specially for me. You can have them back when you learn to share and be grateful for all we've done for you." I left the room with the markers, Emma's soft sobs following me down the hallway. Downstairs, I found James consoling a still sniffling Sophia. "I took care of it," I told him, showing him the marker set. "She's grounded, and I've taken away the markers until she learns to behave appropriately." James nodded approvingly. "Good. She needs to understand that actions have consequences." "Can I have them?" Sophia asked, eyeing the markers. I hesitated only briefly before handing them over. "Yes, but be careful with them. They're expensive." Sophia smiled triumphantly, immediately opening the case and pulling out markers with little regard for their arrangement. Thanks, I'm going to make the coolest TikTok with these. As I watched her carelessly handling the professional markers, a small voice inside me whispered that I had just made a terrible mistake. But I pushed it aside, returning to the party to assure everyone that everything was fine, even as my heart knew nothing was fine at all. The weeks following Emma's birthday were marked by a heavy silence in our home. Emma fulfilled her punishment requirements to the letter, coming home directly after school, completing her homework, and performing any chores assigned to her. But she spoke only when directly addressed, giving the briefest possible responses. Her emotional withdrawal was complete. Where once she might have shared stories from school or shown me her latest artwork, she now moved through the house like a ghost present physically, but absent in every other way. She ate dinner with us, but contributed nothing to the conversation. She declined to participate in weekend family activities, stating simply that she was grounded and should remain in her room. I found her behavior frustrating and interpreted it as manipulation rather than genuine pain. She's just trying to make us feel guilty, I told James after Emma declined to join us for a family movie night. She'll get over it once she realizes this sulking isn't getting her anywhere. James agreed, suggesting we extend her grounding if her attitude didn't improve. Teenagers test boundaries, he said with authority. We need to stand firm. Meanwhile, Emma's grades continued to decline. Her previously stellar academic record now showed C's and even a D in art class, previously her strongest subject. When I confronted her about this, she responded with the same flat affect that had become her standard expression. I'm having trouble concentrating, was all she said. I added tutoring to her list of requirements, failing to realize that academic support couldn't address the emotional devastation I had caused. 3 weeks after the birthday disaster, I received an unexpected call from David, Emma's father. His voice was tight with barely controlled anger. Gabriella, what the hell is going on? Emma called me last night in tears. She's being dramatic, I defended immediately. She got in trouble at her birthday party for refusing to share, and now she's punishing everyone with this silent treatment. That's not what she told me, David replied. She said you forced her to share her birthday party with Sophia, that none of her preferences were considered, and that you took away the markers I bought her and gave them to your stepdaughter. Pug. Put so plainly, my actions sounded terrible. I scrambled to justify myself. It's more complicated than that. We're trying to create family unity, and Emma is being resistant. The joint party was meant to help the girls bond. By completely ignoring our daughter's wishes on her birthday. By taking away a gift I carefully selected for her, specifically Gabriella. This doesn't sound like you. What's going on? His questions struck too close to truths I wasn't ready to confront. You don't understand the dynamics of blended families, David. Sometimes difficult decisions have to be made for the greater good. The greater good, he repeated incredulously. Our daughter sounds depressed, Gabriella. Her grades are falling, she's withdrawn, and she's asking if she can come live with me full-time. His words hit me like a physical blow. She wants to live with you. She can't do that. Our custody agreement is clear. Custody agreements can be modified, especially when a teenager expresses a strong preference. Emma is old enough that a judge would consider her wishes. Fear gripped me at the thought of losing my daughter. She's just upset right now. She'll get over it. Will she? Because from where I'm standing, it sounds like you're systematically prioritizing your new family over our daughter. I'm concerned about her emotional well-being, Gabriella. That's not fair, I protested, though a small voice inside me whispered that perhaps it was entirely fair. I'm picking Emma up this weekend as usual, David said, but we're going to have a serious conversation about the future living arrangements when I do. I suggest you think carefully about what matters most to you. The call ended, leaving me shaken. Was David right? Had I been systematically prioritizing James and Sophia over Emma? I didn't want to believe it, but doubt had begun to creep in. The next day, I received an email from Emma's school counselor requesting a meeting. The formal tone of the message suggested this wasn't a routine check-in. I scheduled the appointment for the following afternoon, a sense of dread growing within me. The counsellor, Ms. Winters, welcomed me into her office with professional courtesy. Thank you for coming in, Mrs. Reynolds. I wanted to discuss some concerns I have about Emma. Her grades. I nodded. I know they've slipped. We've arranged tutoring. It's not just her grades, but Ms. Winters replied. We're concerned about significant behavioural changes. Emma has always been a quietly engaged student, but her teachers report she's become withdrawn to the point of concern. She doesn't participate in class discussions anymore, and she's stopped submitting work in her art class entirely. She's been going through an adjustment period, I explained. We joined a blended family last year, and there have been some growing pains, Ms. Winters nodded thoughtfully. I'm aware of the family changes. Emma has expressed some of her feelings through her art, which is partly why I wanted to meet with you. She opened a folder and placed several pieces of artwork on the desk between us. The images hit me like a physical blow. In stark black and white, Emma had drawn a series of images depicting isolation and loss. In one, a small figure stood alone in a corner, while other figures clustered together on the opposite side of the page. In another, a bird in a cage watched as other birds flew freely outside. These are from her art therapy sessions with me, Ms. Winters explained gently. Emma is expressing significant feelings of abandonment and loss. When we discuss these images, she talks about feeling invisible in her own home, about having no safe space that belongs just to her. Shame washed over me as I recognized the truth in these desperate artistic cries for help. I had no idea she was feeling this way, I said, though that wasn't entirely true. The signs had been there, but I had chosen to ignore them. Mrs. Reynolds, I strongly recommend family therapy. Emma is showing signs of depression, and I'm concerned about her emotional well-being if these issues aren't addressed. I nodded, too overcome to speak. The evidence of my daughter's pain was laid out before me in black and white, impossible to deny any longer. That evening, I attempted to create a normal family dinner atmosphere, but the tension was palpable. James dominated the conversation, discussing his day at work, while Sophia interjected with stories about her friends and social dramas. Emma sat silently moving food around her plate but eating little. Emma, James said suddenly, your mother tells me your grades are suffering. That's very disappointing. We expect better from you. Emma didn't look up from her plate. Yes, sir. Cursing. The formal address was new and clearly designed to create distance. James frowned at her tone. This attitude isn't helping anything, he said sternly. You're making things difficult for everyone. I'm sorry my existence is difficult for you, Emma replied quietly. That's not what he meant, I intervened. We're just concerned about these changes in your behavior. My behavior changed when everything else in my life changed without my consent, Emma said, finally looking up. When I lost my home, my privacy, and my mother. Her words struck me like a physical blow. You haven't lost me, Emma. Haven't I? She asked, her voice steady, despite the tears gathering in her eyes. When was the last time you took my side about anything? When was the last time you put me first? You chose them over me. Mom, you made your choice very clear. That's enough, James interrupted. Your mother has done everything to make this transition easier for you, and your ingratitude is appalling. Emma stood up from the table. May I be excused? I have homework. Without waiting for a response, she carried her plate to the kitchen and disappeared upstairs. The sound of her bedroom door closing echoed through the suddenly silent house. She's out of control, Sophia complained. She makes everything so dramatic. James nodded in agreement. This has gone on long enough. She needs to adjust her attitude. But I was no longer certain they were right. The counsellor's words and Emma's art had shaken me, forcing me to see what I had been ignoring for months. I excused myself from the table and went upstairs, needing time to think. As I passed Emma and Sophia's shared bedroom, I heard a sound that stopped me in my tracks. Emma was crying, not the dramatic sobs Sophia deployed for attention, but quiet, heartbreaking weeping of genuine grief. I raised my hand to knock, then hesitated, suddenly unsure of my welcome in my own daughter's life. Before I could decide, I heard movement inside the room. Peering through the slightly ajar door, I saw Emma pulling a duffel bag from under her bed and beginning to pack clothes into it. My heart raced as I pushed the door open. Emma, what are you doing? She didn't stop packing as she answered, her voice thick with tears. I called Dad. He's coming to get me tonight. I want to live with him. Panic seized me. You can't just decide that, Emma. There are legal agreements, school considerations. Dad already talked to his lawyer. He says at my age the court will consider my preference, and my school has an online program I can do until the end of the semester. I realised she had been planning this carefully, perhaps for weeks. Emma, please, let's talk about this. I know things have been difficult. Difficult? She finally stopped packing to look at me, her eyes red from crying. Mum, I'm drowning here. Every day I lose a little more of myself. I have no space, no privacy, no support. Even you don't see me anymore. You only see what James and Sophia want you to see. That's not true, I protested, but my voice lacked conviction. It is true. You took Dad's gift away from me and gave it to Sophia. Do you know what she did with those markers? She used a few for a social media post, then threw them in her desk drawer. $300 professional art supplies, and she treated them like dollar store crayons. I hadn't known that. I had assumed Sophia was actually using the markers for art. Emma, I made a mistake with the markers. I can get you new ones. This isn't about the markers, Emma cried, her control finally breaking. It's about you choosing them over me every single time. It's about you not protecting me, not standing up for me, not loving me enough to put me first even once since we moved here. Her words pierced my heart because I knew they were true. In trying to make my new marriage work, I had sacrificed my daughter's well-being and happiness. I had failed the most important job I would ever have, being a mother. I do love you, Emma, more than anything. Then show it, she whispered, resuming her packing, because from where I'm standing, your actions say something very different. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching my daughter prepare to leave me, knowing I had driven her to this point. The weight of my mistakes pressed down on me until I could hardly breathe. Everything from the shared bedroom to the ruined birthday party to the confiscated markers played through my mind in a devastating montage of parental failure. What can I do? I asked finally, my voice breaking. Tell me how to fix this. Emma paused, looking at me with eyes too old for her 15 years. I don't know if you can fix it, Mom. I don't know if I can trust you anymore. You stopped being my mum when you married him. Her words broke something inside me, and I began to sob, all my defenses crumbling under the weight of the truth. Emma watched me cry, neither moving to comfort me nor continuing to pack. We remained frozen in this tableau of mutual pain as the reality of our broken relationship hung in the air between us. That night, after Emma left with David, I lay awake reviewing the past year through a new lens, one not clouded by my desperation to make my new marriage work at all costs. I remembered ignored warning signs, dismissed concerns, and moment after moment where I had failed to be the mother Emma needed. The realization of what I had done kept me awake until dawn, tears soaking my pillow as I faced the consequences of my choices. The morning after Emma left, I went through the motions of my daily routine in a fog of grief and regret. James came downstairs to find me staring into a cup of untouched coffee, my eyes red from a sleepless night. She'll be back, he said with confidence. David can't handle a teenage girl full-time with his work schedule. Give it a week. I looked up at him, seeing him clearly, for perhaps the first time since we met. And if she doesn't come back, if she chooses to stay with her father permanently, James shrugged. Then maybe it's for the best. She's been a divisive presence in the household, Gabriella. You have to admit things would be more harmonious without her resistance. His casual dismissal of my daughter shocked me. More harmonious, James. She's my child. There is no for the best scenario that doesn't include her in my daily life. I'm just being practical, he replied, pouring himself coffee. Emma has made it clear she doesn't want to be part of this family. We can't force her, and frankly, her attitude has been difficult for everyone, especially Sophia. Her attitude, I repeated, a dawning realization making my voice sharp. James, we moved her from her home, forced her to share a room with a stranger, took over her birthday, and I confiscated a special gift from her father. How exactly should she have responded? James looked surprised at my tone. You're upset, I understand. But Emma needs to get with the program. This is our family now, and that means adjustments for everyone. What adjustments has Sophia made? I asked quietly. What has she had to give up or share? That's different. Sophia lost her mother. She's been through enough trauma. And Emma lost her family unit, her home, her privacy, and increasingly her relationship with me. Isn't that trauma too? James frowned, clearly not expecting this challenge. Look, blending families is complicated. Not everyone adjusts at the same pace. Emma will come around eventually, or she won't. But we need to focus on moving forward either way. His callous attitude toward my daughter crystallized something for me. I need to call David, I said, standing up. I want to check on Emma. James made a dismissive gesture. Give her space, Gabriella. Let her cool down before you talk to her. But I was already dialing, no longer interested in James's advice about my daughter. David answered on the third ring, his voice cautious. How is she? I asked immediately. Physically fine, emotionally exhausted, he replied. She cried herself to sleep last night. The image of my daughter crying herself to sleep in her father's house away from me tore at my heart. Can I talk to her? She doesn't want to talk right now, Gabriella. She needs some time. I swallowed hard, fighting back tears. I understand. Could you tell her I love her and that I'm thinking about her? I will, David promised, his tone softening slightly. Look, I don't know what's been happening in your house, But this isn't the same girl we co-parented for the past 3 years. She's withdrawn, anxious, and deeply sad. Her self-confidence is shattered. I know, I whispered. I've made terrible mistakes, David. I'm just starting to see how bad things have gotten. There was a pause before David spoke again. If you're serious about fixing this, I'm willing to work with you. Emma needs both her parents, but I won't send her back to a situation where she feels unwelcome and unimportant. What do you suggest? I asked, willing to try anything. For now, let her stay with me through the weekend. Give her space to decompress. I've taken time off work to be with her. Maybe on Sunday you could come over, just you, and we can start a conversation about what happens next. Just me, I agreed immediately. Thank you, David. After hanging up, I found James watching me with displeasure. You're coddling her, he said. This drama is exactly what she wants. For the first time, I pushed back firmly. This isn't drama, James. This is my daughter in genuine pain. Pain that I helped cause. I need to make this right. And what about Sophia? What about our family? Emma is my family too. I've been failing her and I can't continue to do that. James's expression hardened. I thought we were partners in this, making decisions together about our children. Our children. I repeated the phrase, suddenly problematic. But that's just, it isn't it? They're not our children in the same way. They're individuals with different needs and different relationships to each of us. I've been wrong to treat Emma as if her needs and feelings matter less than Sophia's. The conversation ended there with James walking away in obvious frustration, but something had shifted inside me. For the first time since our marriage, I was seeing clearly how imbalanced our blended family had become, and I was no longer willing to sacrifice my daughter's well-being to maintain that imbalance. Later that day, I went into the girls' shared bedroom. With Emma gone, Sophia had already spread her belongings across both sides of the room. On her desk, I spotted the marker set I had taken from Emma, several caps missing, and a few markers clearly dried out from being left uncapped. The careless treatment of something so precious to Emma struck me anew. As I picked up the damaged markers, I noticed Emma's journal tucked under her pillow. I had never invaded her privacy by reading it before, but now desperate to understand the full extent of her pain, I found myself opening it. What I found broke my heart completely. Page after page documented Emma's experience of our blended family, written in her beautiful artistic hand, often accompanied by small sketches. Day 37 in the new house, one entry began. Mum didn't notice when Sophia took my blue cashmere sweater today, the one Grandma gave me before she died. When I tried to get it back, Sophia spilled soda on it accidentally. When I told Mum, she said I shouldn't be so attached to material things. But it's not about the sweater. It's about having something that's just mine, something that connects me to before, when Mum saw me. Another entry read, Elijah, my amounts. I tried again to talk to Mum about having some space of my own, even just a corner of the basement where I could keep my art supplies. She said there's no room because James needs the whole space for his home gym equipment, which he uses maybe once a month. I don't think she even hears me anymore. It's like I'm slowly disappearing and she doesn't notice. The most recent entry just before her birthday was the most painful. Mum doesn't love me the same way anymore. I don't know what I did wrong, but ever since we moved here, it's like I'm an inconvenience to her new life. Tomorrow is my birthday, but it's not really my birthday anymore. It's just another day where what Sophia wants matters and what I want doesn't. I don't know how much longer I can pretend I'm okay. I closed the journal, tears streaming down my face as I finally understood the depth of my daughter's isolation and pain. How had I been so blind? How had I failed so completely to protect her and see her? For the first time, I allowed myself to critically examine James's role in all this. His constant pressure to prioritize Sophia, his dismissal of Emma's feelings, his framing of reasonable requests as attitude problems, all suddenly appeared manipulative rather than helpful. I had been so eager to make my new marriage work that I had accepted his perspective without question, allowing him to define my relationship with my own daughter. The realization left me shaken and uncertain about the future of my marriage, but increasingly clear about one thing. My responsibility to Emma had to come first from now on, no matter what. When James returned home that evening, I was waiting for him ready for a long overdue conversation. We need to talk about Emma, I began as soon as he walked in the door. I thought we covered this morning, he replied dismissively. No, we didn't. I did a lot of thinking today, James. I read Emma's journal. He raised his eyebrows. Invading her privacy now, that doesn't seem productive. What isn't productive is continuing to ignore how unhappy she's been. Her journal entries make it clear that she's felt unwelcome and unimportant in this house from the beginning, and I let that happen. James sighed with exaggerated patience. Teenagers are dramatic, Gabriella. Emma has been determined to dislike this arrangement from the start. We've both bent over backwards to accommodate her. Have we? Because from what I can see, she's been the one doing all the accommodating. She gave up her home, her private space, even her birthday. What has Sophia had to give up? That's not fair, James protested. Sophia lost her mother. She deserves special consideration. Emma lost her family unit too, James. And then because of my choices, she effectively lost me as well. Don't her feelings deserve consideration too? James's expression hardened. What exactly are you saying, Gabriella? I took a deep breath, knowing we had reached a critical juncture. I'm saying things need to change if Emma is going to come back. She needs her own space. She needs me to stand up for her. She needs to feel that her feelings and needs matter in this family. And what about what Sophia needs? What about what I need? This isn't an either-or situation, James. But right now there's a serious imbalance that's hurt my daughter deeply, and I can't allow that to continue. James was quiet for a long moment, studying me with narrowed eyes. When he spoke, his voice was cold. I see. So after all this time creating a family together, you're suddenly choosing Emma over us. The phrasing was revealing. In James's mind, it was Emma versus us, not a family that included Emma equally. I'm not choosing Emma over anyone. I'm refusing to continue choosing everyone else over Emma. There's a difference. So what do you propose? We rearrange the entire household to appease a sulking teenager. I propose that when Emma is ready to return, she has her own bedroom. I propose that her boundaries are respected, her belongings are hers alone, and her voice is heard in this family. And where exactly is this magical extra bedroom coming from? James demanded. We're at capacity unless you're suggesting Sophia give up her room. It's not Sophia's room, I pointed out quietly. It's the room they've been sharing, which was supposed to be temporary. Your office could be moved to a corner of the living room or the basement. You work from home 1 day a week while Emma lives here every day. James's face flushed with anger. My office is non-negotiable. I need that space for my business. And Emma needs space for her life, James. If we can't make that work here, then maybe... I hesitated, hardly believing what I was about to say. Maybe Emma and I need to find another living arrangement. The words hung in the air between us, a line drawn that could not be uncrossed. James stared at me in disbelief. Are you threatening to leave over this? I'm stating a fact. My daughter needs a home where she feels welcomed and valued. I failed to provide that for her here. If things can't change, then yes, I'll need to make other arrangements. I can't believe this, James muttered. After everything, you're going to throw away our marriage over a teenage tantrum. This isn't a tantrum, James. This is a child in genuine pain that I helped cause by not standing up for her. I won't make that mistake again. The conversation ended in a stalemate, with James storming out of the house to clear his head. I remained seated at the kitchen table, strangely calm, despite the potential collapse of my marriage. For the first time in months, I felt clarity about my priorities, and that brought its own kind of peace. The separation happened gradually, then all at once. After my confrontation with James, I spent the weekend in David's guest house to be near Emma, while still giving her the space she needed. James's angry texts gradually shifted to manipulative pleas and finally to cold acceptance that I was serious about putting Emma's needs first. On Sunday afternoon, Emma agreed to talk with me. We sat in David's backyard, the spring sunshine warming us as we carefully navigated the broken landscape of our relationship. I'm so sorry, Emma. I began forcing myself to maintain eye contact despite the shame that made me want to look away. I failed you in every way possible. I put my relationship with James ahead of my relationship with you, and that was unforgivable. Emma listened silently, her face carefully neutral, protecting herself from further hurt. I've been thinking about everything that's happened since we moved in with James and Sophia, I continued. And you were right. I did stop seeing you. I stopped standing up for you. I was so afraid of failing at my second chance at marriage that I ended up failing at something much more important, being your mother. Emma's composure cracked slightly, her lower lip trembling. Why didn't you hear me when I tried to tell you I was unhappy? I tried so many times, Mom. I was selfish, I admitted. And I was wrong. There's no excuse for how I treated you, especially at your birthday party. Taking away your father's gift was unforgivable. It wasn't just the markers, Emma said quietly. It was everything. It was feeling like I didn't matter in my own home, in my own life. like I was just an inconvenience to your perfect new family. Her words cut deep, but I needed to hear them. You were never an inconvenience, Emma. You are the most important person in my life, and I lost sight of that. I promise you, if you give me another chance, I will never make that mistake again. What about James and Sophia? What about you? I countered gently. Your needs matter, Emma. Your feelings matter. If James can't accept that, then he's not the partner I thought he was, and some difficult decisions will have to be made. For the first time in our conversation, I saw a flicker of hope in Emma's eyes. What kind of decisions? For starters, I've told James that if you come home, you need your own bedroom. Your boundaries need to be respected, and your voice needs to be heard in family decisions. If those things can't happen in that house, then we'll find another place to live, just you and me. Emma's eyes widened. You'd leave James for me. In a heartbeat, I replied without hesitation. You're my daughter, Emma. Nothing is more important than your well-being, not even my marriage. The tears she had been holding back spilled over then, and I tentatively opened my arms. After a moment's hesitation, she leaned into my embrace, sobbing against my shoulder as I stroked her hair. I missed you, Mom, she whispered between sobs. I missed us. I missed us too, sweetheart. More than you know. That day marked the beginning of our healing journey, but it was only a beginning. Emma wasn't ready to return to James's house, and I respected her need for space. Instead of pushing her, I surprised her with plans for a belated birthday celebration, just the two of us. I searched high and low to find the same art supply set that David had given her, spending more than I could comfortably afford to replace what I had taken away. I arranged for a private lesson at the art studio she had originally wanted to visit for her birthday, and afterward, we had cake at her favourite cafe. It was a small gesture, but the smile it brought to Emma's face was worth everything. Across the table, as she blew out a single candle, I saw a glimpse of my daughter returning to me, and it filled me with determination to rebuild what I had broken. The weeks that followed brought difficult decisions and painful conversations. James and I began a trial separation, with me moving into a small apartment nearby, while Emma remained with David. Family therapy sessions were awkward at first, with Emma reluctant to express her true feelings for fear of more rejection. But gradually, with the therapist's guidance, she began to open up about the loneliness and hurt she had experienced. James initially refused to participate in therapy, dismissing it as coddling. His reluctance only confirmed what I was slowly realizing. Our values about family and parenting were fundamentally incompatible. He viewed children as extensions of their parents expected to adapt to adult decisions without complaint. I had come to understand that children are individuals with valid feelings and needs that deserve respect. The final break came when James issued an ultimatum: choose our marriage or continue this excessive focus on Emma's feelings. The choice was clear and immediate. I filed for separation the next day, grief mingling with certainty that I was finally doing the right thing for my daughter. Emma and I began looking for a 2-bedroom apartment together, somewhere she could have her own space while still being close enough to visit David regularly. Her excitement at helping choose paint colours and furniture for her new room was both heartwarming and heartbreaking, a reminder of how little autonomy she had been allowed in our previous living situation. The healing process wasn't linear. There were setbacks and difficult moments. Emma struggled with trust issues, always waiting for me to revert to prioritising others over her. I worked hard to prove through consistency and unwavering support that I had truly changed my perspective. I made a point of defending her boundaries, even in small matters, showing her that her voice mattered in our family of 2. Co-parenting with David became easier as we focused on Emma's well-being rather than our past marital issues. He saw my genuine efforts to repair my relationship with our daughter and gradually extended more trust and flexibility in our arrangements. Boundaries with James and Sophia were more challenging to establish. James used Sophia as a tool to try to maintain connection, suggesting the girls still needed to spend time together despite Emma's clear discomfort. I learnt to firmly decline these manipulations while keeping communication civil for everyone's sake. 6 months after Emma's fateful birthday party, we were settled in our new apartment, establishing new rituals and rebuilding our bond. One evening, as we prepared dinner together, something we now did regularly, Emma paused while chopping vegetables. "Mum, can I ask you something?" "Anything, sweetheart." "Do you regret it, leaving James, giving up the big house, everything?" I put down the spoon I was holding and turned to face her fully, not for a single second. "The house, the marriage, those things can be replaced. You can't. You're my daughter, my priority, my heart. I'm just sorry it took me so long to remember that." Emma nodded, returning to her task with a small smile. Later that night, I found a folded piece of paper slipped under my bedroom door. Inside was a beautiful drawing of the two of us, surrounded by a simple frame of colourful flowers. At the bottom, in her elegant handwriting, were the words, "Thank you for choosing me. I love you, Mom." I carefully pinned the drawing above my desk, a daily reminder of what truly matters in life, and the precious gift of my daughter's forgiveness. The journey of healing continues for us both. There are still difficult days, moments when the shadow of past hurt darkens Emma's eyes. But there is laughter too, and trust slowly rebuilding, and the deep knowledge that whatever challenges life brings next, we will face them together, mother and daughter, with clear eyes and open hearts. If there's one thing I've learned through this painful experience, it's that children don't need perfect parents. They need parents who listen, who admit mistakes, who put their children's emotional well-being ahead of adult convenience. They need advocates, not peacekeepers. They need to know they matter, that their feelings are valid, that home is a place where they are truly seen. I look at my daughter now flourishing again with her art, her grades improving, her smile returning, and I know that no relationship, no marriage, no perfect family illusion could ever be worth sacrificing her happiness and security. Some lessons come at a terrible cost, but if sharing my story helps even one parent avoid the mistakes I made, then perhaps some good can come from our pain. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between what someone wanted and what your child needed? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening to my journey from regret to redemption. And remember, our children are watching not just what we say, but what we do, who we prioritize, and how we love.